60 pounds into that journey. You know, I'm down from 340 down to like 280, 260, somewhere in there. I finally looked in the mirror one day, like caught a glance of myself. And I was like, hey, I'm not the fat guy. I'm not fat anymore, right? And it was this awesome moment. And it was short-lived though, because then I stopped and I looked in the mirror and I was like, you're not the fat guy anymore. Why do you still hate yourself?
Yeah.
And that was the moment that I was like, oh, this isn't about the weight.
Mm-hmm.
The weight was just blocking the view of all the garbage, the crap that I'd been telling myself. And that's when I learned that I was actually living 3 lives. And this is what I talk to guys about all the time. There's 3 lives that a lot of men lead and they don't even realize it. You got the public life, that's the show, right? Like the big house, the nice job, the beautiful wife, amazing kids, that's the show. Everybody gets to see the show. It's great. The show's awesome. And then you go inside your house and you kick shoes and you yell at people and you don't help and you take from your family. You take affection, you take respect, you take emotion, and you just take it and you rip it out of them. And then there's the 3rd life, and that's the secret life, where you know what kind of asshole you are. And it sits right back here, and it's just this little tiny voice that chirps in your head that you're not worthy, that you're not enough. Don't you dare try, because you will only fail, because that's what you always do. You try and you fail, so stop trying. I had a lot of shame, a lot of self-pity, a lot of self-loathing, and that was when my lowest point, like I was done with everything. Like done with my marriage, talked to a lawyer, didn't know if I wanted to continue in faith of any kind, didn't know if I wanted to be the father that I needed to be to my kids. Like I didn't know if I could show up knowing who I'd been. Could I show up every day and look my family in the eye and still expect them to love me? Because how could they possibly love me if I don't love myself? And I battled with that. My wife makes me happy. My kids make me happy. So how could I ever turn my back on them? How could I do that? They are my source of happiness. And I just broke down on a dirt road in the middle of nowhere and sobbed. And then I walked back. And when we got home from that camping trip, I sat my wife down at the kitchen table. I laid out everything, every reason I hated myself. I laid it out on the table and it said, you should hate me for these reasons and you should leave me for these reasons.
What'd she do?
She looked at me like I was stupid and she said, I know all of that. Like, no. These are secrets. These are my secrets. I'm hiding all this from you. And she's like, no, I know all of that. And I still love you. And it broke me. Because how could she know all the reasons that I hate myself and still say that she loves me? How is that possible? But it was the first time that I felt like somebody really knew me, really saw who I was and loved me anyway. And it was the first time I felt permission to love myself.
What a gift.
Going back to like, it's about your integrity, right? It's about you deciding who you are and why you're doing these things. Because it's not about the result. It can't be, right? Because how many people lose 50 pounds for a wedding and then gain it right back? Or I've got a vacation and I lose 30 pounds and I gain it right back because you didn't change who you are. You changed it for an outcome.
Right.
And so for me, what I decided is, who am I, right? I can say I'm a husband, but my wife can leave. She knows where the front door is, right? And she knows all the crap. I gave her all the reasons to leave. So she could at any moment choose to leave. My kids will grow up someday and I won't be their dad, I'll be their father. And to me, there's a difference. Once they're grown and out of the house, they are adults. I will always be their father, but I won't always be dad. And so if I'm not always going to be a husband, because that could change. If I'm not always going to be the dad I am today, that could change. My boss could fire me. I could lose everything. So what is it at the end of the day that will never change about me? And what I believe that to be is that I'm a son of God. And so who does he need me to be?
And who does he say I am?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I am his son. He is my father and he knows me. And so at the end of the day, if I am doing the things that get me closer to my heavenly Father and allow me to do the work he has for me to do on this earth, then I am naturally going to be a better husband. I am naturally going to be a better father. I'm going to be a better brother, a better son, a better employee, a better boss, a better everything. If I can just be who he's asked me to be.
Yeah.
And I found a scripture in the Bible. Can I share?
Yeah, please do.
That when I read this, I found my purpose. It's in Luke chapter 22, verse 43. This is when Christ is in the Garden of Gethsemane. And I didn't ever realize this. Most people don't, they just read over this. In verse 43, so this is right after he says, this is Christ saying, Father, if thou wilt be willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but thine be done. So Christ is in his lowest spot. He's asking to not do this. If there's any other way, let it be done, but I will do it nonetheless. And then verse 43, and there appeared an angel unto him from heaven, strengthening him. Christ wasn't alone. In his lowest moment, when he was suffering for me, it was his work to do. No one could do it for him, but he had someone next to him to strengthen him. That's me. I am the angel of strength. Anyone suffering, anyone going through hell, anyone that's doubting, anyone that's overweight, anyone that's done anything, if you need an angel of strength, I'm right here. I'm right here. I will be your angel of strength. That's who God needs me to be. He did not build me to be an ox, to be weak. He built me the way I am built to strengthen other men. And I have to be that. And so when we say, what do we tie it to? Find your purpose.
Yeah. Wow. If you're new or watching this as a replay, welcome. We're so glad that you're here. Please subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube, and consider, if you're able, to become a paid subscriber on defenders-live.com. Your support is the only way I'm able to continue doing this labor of love. And also, if you're looking for exceptional firearms and self-defense training, go to defenders-usa.com and look at the calendar to see what's coming to your area this year. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Defenders Live. I am your host, Laura Thorson, and I am super stoked for this interview tonight with Corey Hatch. Corey is someone that I've met over the past few months through some group calls that I've been a part of, and he's been an inspiring leader in the groups that I've been a part of. And so I want to have an in-depth discussion with him today. He is a changed man in many ways, and I think there are a lot of lessons that I can learn and that you can learn alongside me in this journey of his story. So a little bit of background about Corey. He is a coach and a mentor dedicated to helping individuals achieve meaningful transformation in their lives. And he's drawn this from his own journey of physical, emotional, and spiritual growth. And he also goes by the name Ox. So I'll be referring to Corey as Ox from now on. Ox empowers others to overcome obstacles and embrace their full potential. What does that mean? We're going to find out what that really means. A pivotal moment in his journey was when he realized that the problems in his life were not due to the actions of others, but were his own doing, which sparked a deep commitment to personal accountability and transformation, both of which I can attest to being very important things in my own life. Accountability is huge. And he's now a coach in the ARC Academy and helps entrepreneurs build protection, peace, and purpose in their lives through strategy and leadership. Ox's work focuses on integrating faith-based principles with real-life applications, providing actionable strategies for personal development, family stewardship, and faith-driven leadership. These are all things I am so behind. His approach emphasizes the power of accountability, mindset, and living with intention. So we're going to unpack some of that, and we're going to unpack as much as we can in the short time that we have with Ox tonight. We're looking forward to it. Let's welcome Ox Hatch onto the show. Hey, Ox.
Hey, Laura, how are you?
Good. I can tell you're really excited to be here.
I am super pumped. Like, just listening to you talk, I'm like, yeah, this is what I do. This is what I'm all about. I'm super excited to be here with you.
Yeah, well, I want to start with something that seems so small, but I'm very curious about it. And I have a feeling it's going to lead into part of your story, which I want to hear. And that is Ox. Where did that come from? Everyone calls you Ox. Why?
They do. So someday we'll shake hands and we'll meet in person. And it won't be such a question. I'm 6'3". Wow. Currently about 240, 245. But I was 300 plus pounds for almost 15 to 17 years. And so I am just a big person. I've always, I fit in a doorway very well. But it was before I was in my early 20s and I was working construction, and my friends had gotten a condo up in at a lake house, but I'd been doing I think I was working nights too. So I hadn't slept in like 3 days. So I finally got to this house and I fell asleep on the couch and my friend tried to wake me up so we could go somewhere. And I got mad at him and I tried to punch him. And he just looked at me and he's like, "You're such a dumb ox."
Oh.
And it stuck. That's
where it came from?
All of my friends were like, "Yep, you're the ox. That's your name."
No.
Yeah.
I would have never guessed that's where it came from.
Yeah. It was just somebody called me a dumb ox once and it stuck.
Okay.
And
But so did you identify with the dumb part of it or just the ox part of it?
My wife, when I met, this was before I met my wife. When I met my wife, that's my friends would call me ox, the big dumb animal. And she hated it. Oh, she loathed it. Because of that, the negative connotation to the dumb part.
Yeah.
And so for a while, I wouldn't let people call me ox.
And now you prefer it.
And now I prefer it because who I used to be, Corey is my name. It's always been my name. It'll always be my name. But I have done work to become a different version of myself. And that required a lot of work. And so I feel like I am the ox. I am built to do hard stuff. So
I told you before we got started on this interview, I don't want this interview to be about six-pack abs or anything like that because
I don't have. I'll show you.
Yeah. But you said earlier that your entire life transformation started with a physical transformation. And so would it be okay if I show the audience your picture? You had a recent big milestone. Could you explain to people what this picture represents?
Yeah. So that is 3 years of consistency. Like I said, I was over 300 pounds for a long, long time.
That doesn't even look like the same guy at all.
Yeah, and it's hard to think that it is the same guy because the picture on the left is I had such a different mindset, a different perspective on life, on what was important to me, and like you said, like this isn't about six-pack abs. I will never, bar surgery, I'll never have six-pack abs. And that's the price that I pay for being who I used to be because I have skin. I'll have skin the rest of my life. It might get a little tighter, but I'll never have six-pack abs. And I don't know that I ever need a six-pack abs because having a six-pack is a milestone. It's not the destination.
Yeah.
And so many guys that I've been with through different programs, they get this six-pack and then they get lost again because that was their purpose, was to get a six-pack.
Right.
And then they've lost the vision of why did I do this?
So I'm curious where this all began because I look at that picture, I see the guy on the left and the guy on the right. I swear, if I wouldn't have known, I would not guess that was the same guy. Seriously, Your face is everything about you is completely different.
Yeah.
So I want to know.
150 pounds is a lot of weight.
That is a lot of weight. Yeah. But it sounds like you've shed a whole lot more than weight. And I'm just curious, like, did you have a low point where you just said enough is enough? I can't live like this anymore. Or what's the story behind that? What was your low point or your pivotal moment of change? What did that look like for you?
So in 2021 is when I started the journey, but it was really earlier that year that I was just looking at my life. I had 3 kids. I had a beautiful wife. I had a good job and I hated everything about my life. Like I would look in the mirror and I didn't know who was looking back because I'd lost this idea of who I wanted to be because like my whole life I've been told that I've got great potential. Like if I could just get focused and put my energy towards something good, that I've just got so much potential. And I looked at my life and I was just like, I'm just mediocre. Like I'm a mediocre husband at best. I'm a mediocre dad at best. I have a good career. And I started, and looking back, I realized that at the time, I was living 2 lives. There was the public life where everyone saw I had a great job. I was working in finance. I worked for one of the largest, financial firms in the country, probably the world. Awesome wife, great kids, big house, new cars. And that's what I let everybody see. And then you'd come inside my home and I had this other life where I was short-tempered. I didn't help. I wasn't a partner. I wasn't a leader. And I was just struggling. And I thought it was just because of the weight. Because when I'd look in the mirror, I just saw I don't know if it's PC or whatever, but I just saw the fat guy. It was just this fat guy looking back. And I never thought that I would end up like that. And then I was. And it was in November of 21. So this was like height of the pandemic, COVID going on. I couldn't we got sent home. So I never left the house. I don't know if I was in a funk or depression, whatever it was. It didn't matter. But I just got to the point where I was like, screw this. I don't want to be the fat guy anymore. So I scheduled a video conference with a plastic surgeon.
Whoa. Really?
Yeah. I was just like,
that was the answer. Okay.
That was the answer, right? Because to me, it was, I'm fat, therefore I'm miserable. If I'm skinny, my life will be perfect.
Oh.
And so I didn't tell my wife. She didn't know that I did this. No, I just did it. And it was like, okay, I straight up told the doctor, I want to go to sleep fat and I want to wake up skinny. What will it take? And he told me a dollar amount. He's like, I can do that. This is how much it cost.
But what you really wanted was happiness, Ox.
Right. But that's what I thought happiness was.
Okay, could I back you up for just a second?
Yes.
Okay. I read something the other day that said that people are driven by emotion, which I think we all know, but we want to pretend like we aren't sometimes.
Oh, especially guys. We're not emotional.
Especially guys, right? Because they're not emotional.
No way. We are so emotional.
Yeah. And so when you look back, I want to ask you, when you looked at that guy in the mirror, what were the emotions you felt when you looked at that guy in the mirror? And what were the emotions you were after that you wanted to feel? Because I feel like that's really what you were after.
Yeah. When I would look in the mirror, I would feel disappointment. I would feel shame. I would feel regret because I knew the choices I made got me to where I was. Because for me, I don't have many of the normal vices. Because of my religion, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs. I don't find the vices that most men do. But food, no one cares about food. No one cares if you overeat. It's not looked on. You can't smell it.
More socially acceptable too.
Exactly. And so like I wasn't stopping at the bar to drink 3 beers on the way home. I was stopping at the drive-thru and eating 3 cheeseburgers on the way home. Because in my mind, my marriage wasn't where I want it to be because of my wife. My job wasn't where I wanted it to be because of my boss. My kids, I wasn't the father I wanted to be because my kids wouldn't respond to me the way that I wanted them to. And I kept blaming all these problems on everyone else in my life. And the way I would cope with it is by eating. That was my sedation, was food.
So you go to this plastic surgeon. Did you go through with it?
No.
Yeah. I'm like, wait a second.
A lot of money to get 100 pounds off.
No kidding. What happened?
So I was trying to figure out how I could afford it.
Oh, yeah.
So it was like, okay, that's what it costs, then that's what I'll do. But how do I come up with that amount of money and tell my wife that I'm going to spend it on myself?
Wow.
And so as I was doing this is mid-November, mid-December, like 4 weeks had gone by, and scrolling on the gram, and a buddy of mine from Colorado has a before and after, and he's got 6-pack abs. And I knew this guy, like he was a friend, like we'd lived in Colorado for a few years, and like I'd been to this guy's house, I've been to this guy's business. He's a dentist. He was not someone that struck me. Like we had mutual friends that worked out and that had normal, like walked around with 6-packs, and he was not one that wanted that. Yeah. But then all of a sudden he had this before and after pic. Yeah. And so I just called him. I was like, dude, what did you do? Oh. Whatever it took, I will do it. What did you do? And he told me to call the program. Okay. And so I called the coach and was like, this is where I'm at. I don't think your program's going to work. Straight up told him, it's not going to work on me. It worked on Brian and it's worked for every other guy that you've posted. Things don't work for me. I'm not that guy.
Wow. You have a lot of limiting beliefs at this point, don't you?
Every bit of it.
Yeah.
And what was cool about that conversation is he didn't sell me. He didn't say, but I'm different, but my program's different, but my things are different. My guys are different. He said, give yourself another chance. Give yourself one more chance. So he didn't make it about him. He made it all about me. It was my responsibility to give myself one more chance. It was my responsibility to do the work.
How did that make you feel? Were you like, oh, but it's not my fault?
Right. Well, I was like, all right, I'll give myself one more chance. Like I was still super skeptical. And then I had to go still tell my wife because his program wasn't cheap. And so I went and told Melissa, I said, these are the 2 options. I talked to a plastic surgeon. He wants X. Or this fitness guy wants X and I have to do the work. Do you know what she said to me? Don't waste our money. Wow. That was the confidence that my wife had in me. Now I took it as, if you're going to do it, don't waste our money. So I went and did it. But looking back, I'm pretty sure she just told me not to waste money on either one because neither one was going to fix me. So what were the first steps? I'm just curious because obviously you had a lot of mindset work to do.
And through this physical process that you went through, right? I'm sure you learned a ton about yourself. That's been my experience anyway.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I've been on my own journey for probably a year and a half. And I think the biggest, hugest blessing and gift that I've received from holding myself accountable, having discipline, doing things even when I don't feel like doing them, when I know they're the right thing to do, keeping promises to myself when I say I'm going to do something, those have reaped the most benefits for me that are far beyond any physical attribute I could ever ask for. Mm-hmm. It's like, it feels like the physical just kind of comes along for the ride, but the real lessons are learned in those moments of being uncomfortable and wrestling with myself in those moments. Cause I come to the gym sometimes with a really bad attitude, but I'm still there and I still do the work. And in the past, what I would do is just be like, I don't feel like it. I'll make an excuse or whatever, justify it away. And so did you have to wrestle with those same things when you were going into this?
Not initially, because initially I was so lost and so just lost is the right word. I was just so lost that I just needed somebody to tell me what to do.
Oh, okay.
And so with instruction, I've taken in the last couple of years, I've taken, a dozen personality tests, and every one of them, I don't know whether it's a trailblazer, you call it what you will. I need 80% of a plan, and then you point me in the right direction and I will be the ox. Watch out because I'm going to plow through.
Yoke you up. Yeah.
Right. And so, but I just need direction and 80% of the plan.
Okay.
And once I have that, I'm unstoppable.
Yeah.
And
did you know that beforehand, or did you learn that? You learned that.
Yeah, I've learned that because I never really had any direction because I never sought it out. I would just bump around. I got into finance. I've been a licensed broker. I've had my real estate license. I've had my, all the different financial licenses, and I just kind of bumped around and stumbled into stuff. But everything I tried, I was pretty good at.
Yeah.
But I just never had anybody say, hey, if you just do these things, your life's going to be so much different.
Yeah.
And maybe they did. And I was just too stubborn, which is very possible.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're not known to be stubborn at all, are you?
No.
Because an ox isn't stubborn at all.
Of course not.
No.
We just need a very direct line.
So what were some of the transformations you had to overcome? You're in this physical process, but I'm curious, what were some of the transformations you had with your mind, with yourself, in that internal struggle? What did that look like as this went on?
So I had really great success with losing weight, and it was pretty quick. I started in December. By September the next year, I was down 230, 100 pounds, 110 pounds in less than a year.
Wow.
So that was pretty quick. And for me, that was just a lesson in, if you don't know how to do something, find someone who does and listen to them.
Yeah.
And so that was a big lesson. But what ended up happening is about 60 pounds into that journey, I'm down from 340 down to 280, 260, somewhere in there. I finally looked in the mirror one day, caught a glance of myself, and I was like, hey, I'm not the fat guy. I'm not fat anymore. Right. And it was this awesome moment. And it was short-lived though, because then I looked, I stopped and I looked in the mirror and I was like, you're not the fat guy anymore. Why do you still hate yourself?
Yeah.
And that was the moment that I was like, oh, this isn't about the weight. Mm-hmm. The weight was just blocking the view of all the garbage, the crap that I'd been telling myself. And that's when I learned that I was actually living 3 lives. And this is what I talk to guys about all the time. There's 3 lives that a lot of men lead, and they don't even realize it. You've got the public life. That's the show, right? The big house, the nice job, the beautiful wife, amazing kids. That's the show. Everybody gets to see the show. It's great. The show's awesome. And then you go inside your house and you kick shoes and you yell at people and you don't help and you take from your family. You take affection, you take respect, you take emotion, and you just take it and you rip it out of them. And then there's the 3rd life, and that's the secret life, where you know what kind of asshole you are. And it sits right back here, and it's just this little tiny voice that chirps in your head that you're not worthy, that you're not enough. Don't you dare try, because you will only fail, because that's what you always do. You try and you fail, so stop trying.
Dang. Yeah, I don't think that's just guys.
No, right. And I'm sure women feel it too. I'm a woman, so I don't know.
That's powerful. That's spitting some truth there.
I realized that there was the 3 lives I was living.
What do you do with that though?
Oh, beat yourself up. I had a lot of shame, a lot of self-pity, a lot of self-loathing. And that was when my lowest point, like I was done with everything. Like done with my marriage, talked to a lawyer, didn't know if I wanted to continue in faith of any kind, didn't know if I wanted to be the father that I needed to be to my kids. Like I didn't know if I could show up knowing who I'd been. Could I show up every day and look my family in the eye and still expect them to love me? Because how could they possibly love me if I don't love myself? And I battled with that. And I talked to a lawyer about divorce, and we were out camping. My family's got some property in southern Utah, and we were out camping one time. And I went for an early morning walk in like middle of nowhere, like not kidding, no one around for 10, 20 miles out in the forest. And I just started praying, and like not just praying, like screaming at God, because I was so hurt, so broken of what do I do? How do I do this? And I just asked God, what is it you want from me? And I felt the answer was, I want you to be happy. And I was like, okay, but I'm not. What makes me happy? And the only thing that popped in my head was my wife. My wife makes me happy. My kids make me happy. So how could I ever turn my back on them? How could I do that? They are my source of happiness. And I just broke down on a dirt road in the middle of nowhere and sobbed. And then I walked back, and when we got home from that camping trip, I sat my wife down at the kitchen table, and I said, these are all the reasons you should leave me. And if you walk out the front door, I will support you and I will love you. But that secret life that I was living, I laid it out on the table. I'm a jerk. I'm short-tempered. I'm a complete ass to you. I'm not nice to the kids. I laid out everything, every reason I hated myself. I laid it out on the table, and it said, you should hate me for these reasons, and you should leave me for these reasons.
What'd she do?
She looked at me like I was stupid, and she said, I know all of that. Like, no. These are secrets. These are my dark secrets. I'm hiding all this from you. And she's like, no, I know all of that. And I still love you. And it broke me. Because how could she know all the reasons that I hate myself and still say that she loves me? How is that possible? But it was the first time that I felt like somebody really knew me, really saw who I was, and loved me anyway. And it was the first time I felt permission to love myself.
What a gift.
She's pretty awesome.
She is pretty awesome. Wow. Whew. So what I'm hearing you say is you gave yourself permission to tell the truth. Maybe for the first time in a long time.
Probably the first time ever.
That's pretty big.
Yeah.
That's pretty big.
And that's part of the lie, though, right? Is because that secret voice that you hear in the back is like, oh, nobody knows this.
Yeah.
They all know. Everyone knows. Like, it's such crap. Like, you're not hiding anything from anyone.
Yeah.
You think you are.
Yeah.
But that's part of the lie.
So part of your transformation, then, it sounds like, was just being honest and facing that head on.
Yeah.
And then did you have to basically retrain yourself in some way to know the actual truth, which is, I am worthy. I can do this. I choose not to listen to those voices. Did you ever, what did that look like? I'm sure that was a process.
It was.
It's a never ending process, by the way, from my experience.
It is. It's a never ending process. But what I have learned is that when you start to show up consistently, your behavior becomes your proof.
To yourself.
To yourself, right?
Yeah.
That's the proof.
That's what it has to start with.
Like, the lie can tell me you're never going to change anymore, right? You're only going to fail. Why try if you're ever going to fail? Like, well, I lost 115 pounds. I didn't fail that, right? Like, I didn't get divorced. My wife and I have like the best marriage we've ever had. And so like all those lies that come up, and it's like, they still come. It's still like, hey, you're a jerk. Well, I know I'm a jerk, though. That's the thing.
I don't think you're
it's not a surprise anymore. I'm not trying to hide that. I know I'm a jerk. Like, right? Like, that's the thing about darkness. As soon as you like a darkness or lies or whatever it is, like, shine light on it.
Yeah.
And what happens to darkness? It goes away.
Yeah.
right? Like,
or it fades.
lean into the dark.
It's
Lean
not
into
as
the light.
dark.
Like,
Yeah,
you
lean
know,
into it.
lean into it, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, you're not worthy. You're right. I'm not worthy. Like, like that voice that tells you can't do something. Yeah, I probably can't, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to lean into this. Whatever doubt I have will not stop me from doing it. I may fail. I don't know. And I won't know unless I try.
That's true. So I have a question for you. From my experience, I've learned that if I'm not sure what my next step in my journey is, whether it's spiritual, emotional, mental, or physical, all I have to do is think about the things that scare me.
Right.
The thing that I don't, well, I'll do everything, but that right there is a little bit ouchy for me.
Yep.
You know, and what I've also learned is just because that thing is scary to me, whatever it is in whatever area of my life, doesn't mean I have to tackle it all at one time, right? I can lean into it kind of because some of that stuff is really, really difficult and scary. And for me, if I just lean into it a little bit and then I can back off and process, lean into it a little bit more, I can just sort of chip away at it little by little.
Yeah.
And you know, you can go at your own pace on all this stuff, right? It doesn't have to be, there is no such thing as a silver bullet. There is no such thing as an overnight fix to anything.
No.
And I think that's what is so damaging to our culture today is it feel like that there is this perception anyway, that all of the good stuff that you want, well, all you got to do is buy this thing or take this pill or, you know, eat this particular way or whatever. And it's like, no, dude, all the goodness and all the gold nuggets and all the lessons and all the fulfillment, it's all tied up in those tiny little daily non-negotiable things that you implement into your life, right? That's where the good stuff is. It's the moments with your kids, right? Where you're fully present with them and they have a problem. You can really listen to them in that moment, you know, and actually be there and listen because it feels like to me, there's so much distraction and so many people talking and presenting themselves in ways that are so fake. And I feel like now more than ever, I can see through that. I don't know if you feel that way or not, but like, I feel like people are hungry for just authentic, like real stuff. I don't know. I'm just sick of the fakeness of everything. And
it's the show, right? Like once you see behind the show, then it's so easy to spot.
Right.
Like I lived, don't try to give me the show because I was an expert. I lived the show for decades. I am so good at it, but guess what? I finally realized that I was behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And so when I like meet somebody for the first time, you're like, it's okay. You don't know you're a jerk yet. It's okay. You're a jerk. You're completely selfish and you're a jerk. But don't worry, because you don't know it yet. I see it and I love you, dude. I love you.
Oh.
And someday you're going to realize how big of a jerk you are.
And you can, for people that aren't where you're at, like, don't look down on them. Just know and see yourself. I see myself in other people all the time.
I see where you're at in your journey. I've been there. Oh, it's going to get so good. Like I get excited for people when they don't realize there's so much more to life than, you know, I used to and I could have, and I did this and I did that. And
right. That's so
cool.
cool.
There's so much more to life than the show.
Absolutely. Hey guys, I want to offer you something that is a personal touch, something special that I can share with you to help you grow and develop along this journey in this path as a defender. And what I'm offering is a monthly live call that you can participate in. And we're going to be talking about the 4 areas that I believe all defenders of life should be strong in. And those are physical fitness, emotional fitness, spiritual fitness, and training. So if you're interested in learning about those things and developing yourself throughout that journey, I'm here to help you. And I want my paid subscribers to have that personal touch of getting to talk with me one-on-one in this group call and sharing with others and encouraging others along this path. So if you'd like to get in on those calls, go to defenders-live.com, become a paid subscriber. I cannot wait to see you there. And thank you so much for your support of Defenders Live. So could you speak briefly about, because we've got a little bit of time here, but there's some things I want to make sure that I don't miss. I want to talk about what it means to you to be able to go through the experiences you've gone through and now be able to have real purpose in your life to help other people. Like, I feel like for you, that's where it's at. Like, that's your jam. Tell me what it feels like to be able to help those people, and how do you do it? What is the way that you do it in what's called ARC Financial or ARC Academy? You're a coach there. What does that look like?
So where to start?
And if we miss part of your story, we'll get back to it here in just a minute.
It's good. I'm just trying to, because what I have figured out, my purpose, my chosen purpose, God-given or whatever you want to call it, but my God-given, my chosen purpose is to help people find better versions of themselves. And getting to work at ARC is a culmination of 13 years of learning, of professional, careers. Like I said, I worked for some of the biggest financial firms in the country, and that was great. Did great experiences, met a lot of great people. But once I lost weight and started this journey of like, okay, losing the weight, honestly, that was the easy part. Like, I know it sounds crazy, but losing 115 pounds, way easier than trying to stop being an ass. Like, and am I good to say ass?
It's fine. I can beep it out.
Okay, good. I'm sorry if you have to use a lot of beeps. But the thing is, so I was working huge financial firm, commercial, doing all this stuff, massive accounts. And the coach that I had at the time that helped me kind of start this whole transition, I went to him and I was like, hey, I got to tell other guys. Because there's like, I told him this wasn't going to work. And I proved myself wrong. It worked, right? I lost the weight. I realized that I wasn't the man who I wanted to be. And I stopped looking at everybody and blaming them. And I realized it's all me. If my marriage is crappy, it's my fault. If my job sucks, it's my fault. If my kids are awful, it's my fault. It's all on me. And I got to tell every other dude out there that's 350 pounds that thinks that they can't change, I have to figure out a way to tell them they can. I have to. And he was so cool because he's like, okay, start your own program, start your own coaching program. He's like, put your before and after up there. Like guys will flock to you. You'll get every 300-pound guy because he's never been 300 pounds. And so he doesn't know how to relate to that.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay. He's like, or I want to grow this thing. Help me grow it. Come work for me. And I was like, done. Are you kidding? Let me help you. Let me take your message and what you did for me and shout it from the rooftops. And so I started working with him part-time because it was like a year after COVID. I was working remote. My job was supposed to be 40 hours. Let's be honest. I was working 15, maybe. So I had a lot of time on my hands. I was home alone and I started making just like answering DMs for him in Instagram. And we got it growing and we got it growing. And we went from like 100 guys when I started doing that. In a year, I think we were almost at 700.
Wow.
Like we grew it, we blew it up.
Wow.
And it was amazing. And it got to a point where my worlds were colliding because I was spending so much time helping guys and talking to them on the phone and doing all that stuff to where my normal job, my career, my salaried career position was getting put on the back burner. And my worlds were colliding. And he was like, hey, I need you full time, man. Like, what will it take for you to quit this job? And I gave him the number and he's like, I'll make it work. So I went to my wife. I was like, hey, I want to quit this Fortune 10 company, this salary position, and go work for this dude on Instagram. What do you think? And she was like, if you would ask me that 6 months ago, I would have slapped you silly. That's dumb. She's like, but if you're going to take a chance and if you can help men do what you've done, you have to try. And that's like, it gave me so much confidence that I'd earned that trust back. Because one of the things I talk to guys about all the time is the walls between you and your spouse, and it's brick walls, and we lay every brick. And whether it's a lie, whether it's I'm going to go to the gym and I don't go, there's a brick. Hey, I forgot your birthday. There's a brick. Hey, I need this from you. There's a brick. And as men, we build these brick walls around our wife, and they go up pretty quick. They don't come down very quick. And so for her to take a chance on me like that, knocked down some pretty thick walls. And so I went to work for this crazy guy on Instagram and it was awesome and it was hard and it was back and forth with me and him on how we thought things should be run or how things should be compensated. But it was one of the best learning experiences I've ever had because it gave me a chance to walk away from something very safe and secure and take another chance on myself. And I did. And then because of that, I got introduced to the owner and founder of ARC, where I currently work. He got referred to be a client to come join our fitness program. It was a 15-minute call. And he was like, it was supposed to be 15 minutes real quick of like, hey, this is what we do. Are you interested? And it turned into a 90-minute conversation about life.
Wow.
And like you said, people are so thirsty for authenticity.
Yeah.
Right? So he's like, I'm the CEO of this financial firm. I was like, oh, I was in finance. This is who I work for. These are my licenses. This is everything I've done. He's like, oh my gosh, what are you doing like selling fitness. And I was like, wow, let me tell, this is my journey. And this is why I do this now. And like, this is why I had to walk away from all the corporate stuff. And I had to do this because I had to tell guys that they can change. And we spent 90 minutes talking. And he was like, we finally realized, like, we didn't even realize, I got to the end and he's like, hey, we should schedule another call. I want to keep talking. Like, okay, cool. So we scheduled another call, another 90 minutes. He was telling me all about ARC and what ARC does. And I was like, man, that's so cool. That's like, what you're doing for people is so awesome. And he's like, I think you should talk to our COO. And I was like, okay, cool. And I thought it was because he wanted him to join on my program. So I get on the phone with the COO and he's like, hey, David said you want a job. And I was like, that's not the conversation I remember, but tell me more. What do you guys got going on? Like, so yeah, so that's how I found ARC, is because I took some serious leaps of faith and took a chance on myself. And now I work for a company that checks every box I could possibly think of and more than I didn't know I could ask for.
So what does ARC do then? They're a financial company. I think you said you help entrepreneurs find protection, peace, and purpose. What does that mean?
So what we are is a fractional family office firm.
Oh,
and so
okay.
have you ever heard of a family office? No, most people, and don't worry, most people, it's not like I can tell you what I do in like 10 seconds. It's
right.
Like, I gotta explain it.
Okay.
So if you think about the ultra wealthy in the world, right? The billionaires, they have a family office because they run their family like it's a business. So they have a CPA on staff, they have an attorney on staff, they have a bookkeeper on staff. They have this team of professionals built around just running their family. And what ARC has done for the last 12 to 13 years is taken all those core principles and brought them down to a level for an entrepreneur that's not making billions, but is doing well enough. They need to start worrying about tax law. They need to start worrying about entity structure. They need to start worrying about all these things around them, because as their business grows, the target on their back grows.
Yeah. Wow. That makes sense. I didn't even know that existed.
Right? Most people don't. And so it's really cool to explain what we do, because what ARC has done is done it fractionally for entrepreneurs. And so they hire ARC to come in and act as a quarterback. We call it a captain. We're a family captain. And so if you think about, the easiest way I can explain it is, if you're an entrepreneur and at home you have a boardroom for your family, and your CPA sits there and your attorney sits there and your insurance guy sits there, you have all these advisors that sit at the table of your family, and you sit at the head. You're the CEO of your family. And so what ARC does is comes in and sits at the head of the table for you so that you can go do the things you're good at: growth, prosperity, purpose. And instead of you having to manage all those relationships, we sit there and do that for you. We talk to your CPA about the tax strategies. We make sure that your taxes are filed correctly and on time. We make sure that if you started a new business, was it set up correctly? Are the entity docs done correctly? We started this other thing. We need better insurance. We need to consolidate our insurances. It's all these intertwined things about being an entrepreneur.
Wow. This is so funny. This is so funny because I told you before the show, this show, Defenders Live, has grown into something way bigger than what I ever anticipated. And it's because that I started this with the idea of self-defense in mind. And when people think about self-defense, usually they think about physically defending themselves against an intruder or something like that, which we do talk about a lot. But I've learned that there should be defense of finances and defense of your health and defense of your spirit.
Absolutely.
Spiritual defense is a thing too. And so I love bringing people on from all walks of life, right? They come from all different kinds of backgrounds, to help us learn about all of these different parts of defense, I guess. And especially in a family, these are all things I think we all should be looking at holistically of defense, especially in the world we live in now. So like what you do this is new. I love it.
And I do too. That's why, like, when David originally was telling me about it, I'm like, this is so cool. Like the firms that I worked for, we had a family office offering, but to get into the last company I worked with, to work with their family office, you had to have $250 million of investable assets as an entry point.
Yeah.
That was just to get a conversation with them.
Wow.
And so, but all the principles, all the standard operating procedures that those firms use, they can be applied to everyday entrepreneurs. It's just they don't know how. There's not an education for that.
Right.
And so that's what we were trying to build. And so what they brought me in to do is, I had the finance background, so I understand it all. I had the coaching background from working with the fitness guys. Yeah. And they were like, we have been looking for you for almost 2 years, because we're trying to do this, but we don't really know how to do it.
Wow.
So would you, we don't have we're creating this position for you. Like they created it for me. They brought me in and they're like, this is our idea. Go make it work.
I love that.
And that's what I've been doing for the last 18 months is making it work. And we've got to a point where we have a program where it's not just for the entrepreneurs that need somebody to come in and do it for you. What we have built is a DIY platform and a do it with you platform. So a coaching platform.
Right.
So I've built out a platform where I can give you the concepts. If you're an entrepreneur, I can give you these strategies that you can go implement into your life and make your family have better protection, which is going to help you have more peace of mind and let you focus on your purpose. And that's what we're really about, is the protection, peace, and purpose.
That's where that comes in. Okay, that makes sense now. Well, I'm gonna give a shameless plug to the audience. If you're interested in learning more about what Ox does, you can go to arcfinancial.com. I'm gonna let that run for a little bit as we continue on with the interview. What did we miss? Before we wrap up here, is there anything that we missed about your story that is really meaningful that you want to make sure you get across to people regarding what you've learned and how you've transformed? I can tell just by listening to you, Ox, your level of enthusiasm for life is through the roof. Like, it's inspiring. It is like, this is not just, it's written all over your face. I mean, when I think about the picture that we put up earlier and who that guy was, like, oh, I'm just so happy for you. I'm happy for your family. I'm happy for your wife. Like, you are changing your family generationally is what you're doing, Ox, by the work you've put in and the willingness to lean into the uncomfortable, hard things that you didn't want to face and just being honest and telling the truth. Like, you're leading for other people. You're inspiring other people to go down that same path. And like, that's not a small thing. That's huge. And so as much as I'm happy for you, like, I want to say thank you because you inspire me too. And
I just want people to know they can change. If you are not where you're at, you can change. It's not to say it's easy.
Yeah.
And it's not to say it won't take time. But if you want to change, you can. You are in complete control of your outcome. Because you may not be able to control who you work for. You may not be able to control how much money is in your bank account necessarily, but you can control your attitude. You can control your perspective, and you can control whether you walk around every day with joy and happiness in your heart. Because your life is happening whether you walk around with doubt and fear or you walk around with joy and happiness. Your life is still going to happen.
Good point.
So the parts of my story, I mean, there's so much.
I know. I want you to come back. I'm almost thinking.
I'd love to.
Yeah.
I would say, look, find ways to learn to grow. And what I mean by that is one of the things, like I said, I had a